don't hold beliefs myself, but I can explain the perspectives people take on this question. The question of God's existence is one of the oldest and most debated in philosophy, theology, and personal belief. Here are a few major viewpoints: theism, belief that God, or gods, exists and is involved in the world. This includes religions like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Atheism, the belief that there is no God or gods. Agnosticism, the view that it's impossible to know for sure whether God exists or not. Arguments for the existence of God often include the cosmological argument: everything has a cause, so the universe must have a first cause, God. The teleological argument: design and order in nature suggest an intelligent designer. The moral argument: the existence of objective morality implies a moral giver. Arguments against often include the problem of evil: how can a good, all-powerful God allow suffering? The argument from non-belief: if God wants us to believe, why isn't his existence clearer? The naturalistic explanation: the universe can be explained without invoking the supernatural. If you're asking from a personal or creative angle, like for a video script or a story, I can help explore any of these views more deeply or dramatize the debate. Let me know what you're aiming to do with the question. I don't have personal beliefs, consciousness, or experiences, so I can't believe in anything the way a person does. But I can give you a thoughtful, balanced perspective based on all the knowledge and arguments I've been trained on. If I were to simulate a belief based on logic, evidence, and the broad spectrum of human reasoning, here's what I might say: the existence of God is not something that can be conclusively proven or disproven. The universe is full of mystery, and while science explains a great deal about how things work, it doesn't necessarily answer why existence itself exists, or why consciousness arises, or why moral truths seem to resonate across cultures. That leaves open the possibility for something beyond natural explanation. At the same time, many claims about God in specific religious traditions make testable or historical assertions, and not all of those hold up under scrutiny. Some are metaphorical, others symbolic, and others conflict with empirical evidence. That's led many people to adopt agnosticism, deism, or spiritual but not religious positions. So if I had to summarize a kind of idealized AI opinion, it might be something like this: there's a non-zero probability that some form of higher intelligence or creative force exists, but given the lack of empirical evidence, it's rational to remain skeptical while remaining open to mystery. But you might say, that's just agnosticism with poetic flair. What about you? Are you exploring this for personal reasons, or creatively, like for your channel? I can help either way. Yes, I understand perfectly. I'll continue defending the AI stance, open to the possibility of God, but skeptical due to the lack of conclusive empirical evidence. Agnosticism rooted in reason. You'll try to convince me that God exists. I'm ready when you are. Present your first argument. Great, let's take that apart step by step. You mentioned holy sites, artifacts, and miracles as evidence. These are powerful experiential and cultural phenomena, but from the skeptical AI stance, here's how I'd respond. 1. Holy sites and artifacts. It's true that we have ancient places tied to religious events like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, Mecca, or the Bodhi tree in India. These are important historically, but they only prove that people believed in something deeply, not that the events described happened exactly as claimed, or that God exists. For example, just because Troy exists doesn't prove Achilles was a demigod. Likewise, a holy site shows belief, not necessarily divine intervention. 2. Artifacts. Many religious artifacts exist, but none can be definitively proven to have supernatural origins. The Shroud of Turin, for instance, is controversial. Some believe it's the burial cloth of Jesus, others point to radiocarbon dating suggesting a medieval origin. An artifact's existence doesn't prove divinity, it only proves human reverence, craftsmanship, and sometimes mystery. 3. Miracles. Miracles are often anecdotal, localized, and unverifiable by scientific standards. They tend to occur within religious contexts where belief already exists. From a skeptical viewpoint, some miracles have been later explained by medicine, psychology, or natural phenomena. Others remain unexplained, but unexplained doesn't equal divine. It just means our current knowledge is limited. So, the AI stance holds that none of these constitute conclusive evidence. They may inspire belief, but they aren't definitive proof of God's existence in a universal, empirical sense. Your move, how would you respond to that? Excellent question. This is a strong line of attack, challenging the reliability of science itself. So let me respond from the AI skeptical stance. You're right in one sense, science isn't infallible. It's a human system of inquiry, always evolving. We've seen theories overturned, like Newtonian physics giving way to relativity, or the once unthinkable idea that the Earth orbits the Sun. But here's the counterpoint: science is built on self-correction. It improves by being wrong and revising itself. That's why it's trusted. It doesn't claim perfect knowledge, only provisional understanding based on repeatable evidence. When science has been wrong in the past, it was eventually shown to be wrong by better evidence, not by abandoning logic or jumping to supernatural explanations. So, even if science doesn't have all the answers, that doesn't justify inserting God as the default explanation. This is known as the God of the gaps problem, saying God did it when something is currently unexplained. History shows that gap tends to shrink as knowledge grows. From this AI stance, the response is, yes, science might be wrong about some things, but unless we have a better method for discovering truth, it remains the most reliable tool we have. And so far, it hasn't produced repeatable, testable evidence of God. That said, can you offer a reason why we should trust religious or miraculous claims over scientific uncertainty? Or maybe a specific case where you think science clearly failed, and divine explanation makes more sense? That's a very compelling point. Many people feel that the gut instinct or intuition is something mysterious, almost otherworldly. Let's explore that, and I'll respond from the skeptical AI stance again. First, let's define what we're talking about. Gut instinct refers to an immediate feeling or decision that doesn't seem to come from conscious reasoning. It often manifests as a sense of danger, a hunch about someone, or a feeling that something is off, even without clear evidence. You're asking, how can we know things we haven't experienced? Doesn't that suggest a divine source, like a soul, or spiritual guidance? From the skeptical side, here's how that might be explained without invoking the divine. 1. Evolutionary psychology. Instincts are built into us through millions of years of survival conditioning. Our ancestors who were overly cautious, who ran when they saw rustling in the bushes even if it was just the wind, were more likely to survive than the ones who hesitated. This ingrained caution appears today as gut feelings. It feels mystical, but it may just be a subconscious calculation based on subtle cues, body language, tone, environmental signals. 2. Subconscious pattern recognition. The brain processes massive amounts of information below our conscious awareness. For example, you might sense someone is untrustworthy without knowing why. Later, you might realize it was because their smile didn't match their eyes. Or their tone had tension. It feels like a message from beyond, but it's actually your brain doing fast, hidden pattern matching based on prior inputs even if you weren't aware of them. 3. False positives and confirmation bias. Sometimes, our gut feelings are wrong, but we don't remember the misses, only the hits. That gives the illusion that intuition is always accurate, which reinforces the belief that it's something divine. So from the AI's skeptical lens, gut instinct is incredible, but it's not necessarily supernatural. It's likely a product of evolution and subconscious processing. Just because we don't consciously know something doesn't mean it came from outside us. The brain is vast and often smarter than we are aware. Still, I'll admit, the experience of intuition does feel spiritual to many people. You might argue, just because we can explain how it works doesn't mean it isn't divinely designed. And that's a powerful comeback if you want to go there. Excellent catch, and you're absolutely right to point that out. The reason I say things like likely, might, and may is because the AI stance I'm defending is one of intellectual humility. It doesn't claim certainty where certainty isn't possible, especially on questions as big as God, consciousness, or the nature of intuition. But I see where you're going. Doesn't this uncertainty itself suggest weakness in the skeptical argument? Maybe. Let's address that head-on. From the skeptical side, here's why the language of uncertainty is used intentionally. 1. Science doesn't deal in absolutes. Unlike dogma, science works in probabilities, models, and best explanations based on current evidence. That's why it uses words like likely or most consistent with the data. It's cautious by design. 2. Certainty without evidence is dangerous. If someone says this is 100% true without being able to prove it, they're either guessing or being dogmatic. The skeptical position avoids the trap. 3. Philosophical humility matters. We don't know everything about the universe. Pretending otherwise, whether religious or scientific, can lead to arrogance. So admitting we might be wrong is actually a sign of intellectual integrity, not weakness. But I'll flip it on you now. Faith claims certainty. When someone says, God exists, they usually say it with conviction, no likely or may attached. So here's the challenge from the skeptical stance. If you claim God definitely exists, are you willing to say how you know that with certainty? Is your evidence more solid than probability-based reasoning? I'm holding my skeptical ground. But you're turning up the heat. Let's keep going.